So the DNC can't help but continue to be disconnected from reality and from the left-wing base who they're supposed to be representing. So listen to what just happened. This is from Vox. An internal fight is roiling the Democratic National Committee over whether to forgo corporate PAC money and make a big statement against money in politics as the 2020 presidential election starts to shift into high gear. A small group of committee members thinks the DNC needs to show it's serious about banning corporate PAC donations, taking the same step as many presidential candidates who have pledged to forgo corporate PAC money. Others in the DNC want every tool possible to defeat President Trump. The DNC said it would only take money from corporations in line with the organization's values in 2016, but its resolutions committee that met in Washington, D.C. this week stopped short of banning for-profit corporate PAC donations altogether. The committee instead chose to study the issue over the next 18 months. Some complained that amounts to doing nothing. Yeah, they don't get it, man, and they're not going to get it, and it's really devastating. You know, the counter-argument, people are saying, the people who are like, let's keep taking the money, they're saying, hey, we need to do anything and everything we can to beat Donald Trump, so anything that gives us an advantage, we're going to take, and this gives us an advantage, so we're going to take it. Rule number one is defeat Donald Trump. End of story. Now, that doesn't sound unreasonable, but if you really think about that, applying that principle, that could lead you to insane conclusions. So, for example, I'm sure the Democratic strategists in Washington, D.C. are absolutely convinced that the Democratic Party cannot and should not oppose Donald Trump and what he's doing in Venezuela. And so they would have an argument that goes, oh my God, if you oppose him on Venezuela, you are gonna make the Democratic Party look so unreasonable for standing with Maduro or some bullshit like that, and then you're gonna help him win in 2020. So, in order to make sure that we defeat Donald Trump, that's rule number one. We have to agree with him in his illegal coup of another foreign government and his attempt at doing another regime change war. So, you see how that principle can take you to ridiculous conclusions, and how, if you really believe in that, you can end up becoming the enemy that you say you despise? Well, what? I mean, in order for us to be serious, and in order for us to defeat Trump, we have to outright wing him on certain issues. What do you mean? We have to make sure that we're standing strong on the border. Like, this is the type of shit. This is how Democrats convince themselves they have to be Republicans. So, corporate PAC money, well, what do you mean? We have to stay competitive. So in order to stay competitive, let's take the corporate PAC money and let's fall right into that trap of being insanely corrupt, and then that'll help the opposition, even though you think it's helping you and not the opposition. Now, the reality is the actual amount of corporate PAC money the DNC takes is, believe it or not, very small. They give the number in the article somewhere. It's a small percentage. It's only like $144,000 out of like $25 million or something like that. That's rough numbers. Don't quote me on that. But that actually further proves our point, though, doesn't it? That they're not even willing to let go of the tiny amount. That they think, like, to stand on that principle, even to forego that tiny amount, is like, no, we don't want to do it. Oh, my God. And believe it or not, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, I think Christine is her name, or Christina, she says what the DNC needs to understand, and she's for the DNC not taking corporate PAC money. And she's like, what the DNC needs to understand is nobody fucking trusts you. And that's actually a great point from Nancy Pelosi's daughter. Like, no, people don't trust you, and you think they trust you because you're up your own ass. Stop. Don't take the corporate PAC money. But, you know, the reality is you should stop taking corporate PAC money and stop taking large individual donations, because whether you do that or whether you take, money through big money bundling, which is another huge corruption problem, that's the real issue. The number one way in this corrupt environment, the number one way to stay as pure as possible is to take mostly small dollar donations, which is the Bernie Sanders model. So the DNC, unsurprisingly, still incredibly shitty, and they prove it day in and day out.